You are in for an interesting ride.
Hi, folks, and welcome to another ET Newsroom episode. And I've just seen with my own eyes a small orb just fly past me just before I hit the record button. So I've only ever seen that once before when I've actually seen it with my physical eyes. There have been other times when I've seen it and it's been recorded without me noticing, and or other people have commented, oh, there was the orb. Anyway, let's see if one comes in this little intro. This is another Dowsing Detective special. And on the 19th of November, I joined Peter and Elizabeth at their home in Tunbridge Wells in Kent. And we were talking aliens and artifacts. Particularly, we were looking at the Cusco mummy. We were looking at bones. We were looking at cold fusion cabling, believe it or not, that is fossilized. I know, I mean, hard to believe. You know, you're talking about 60 or more million years old, maybe a lot more. So you're going to hear about missing people, some of Peter's latest research, and it is fascinating. I often join in part of the experiments or the queries that he has. I'll add that in, but this time it's mainly Peter. So enjoy our Dowsing Detective episode. This is likely the last of 2023, and we have a lot more going on in 2024. Look out for that. Okay, enjoy. So we are Sunday, the 19th of November 2023, and I'm here with the lovely Peter Vincent, and we're having a look at some of the artifacts he's found. But first of all, we're going to have a look at a couple of photographs of the environment in which he finds these objects. So Peter, just talk us through what we're looking at. We know it's the lower Adriatic.
Yeah, the thing is, the sea is washing up artifacts from the Ice Age, so the sea levels have risen up. So it's taking off every year a slice and it washes it up into little piles. You'll see this on Bournemouth Beach, that big stones get put in one area, sand and small stones in another area. And this is about a 90-foot long length of beach. It has volcanic rock below, and then you have the sand washed up or blown up, and then you have all this stone-like matter. And the stone-like matter contains things from ancient times, really ancient times, thousands, tens of thousands of years ago. So I noticed these strange shapes. So at the back of the beach, you have this sand, and then these stones fall out of what we call the sand layer level. Now over here, the grey level, which we've also got out there, is said to be about 160 million years old, and the sandy colour is said to be about 20 million years old. And of course, fossils and things are found in these areas. A lot of these things, although they look natural, aren't. They've been somehow through processes. This is a copy of an item handed over this year because I thought it was quite large. There's a pencil up there, quite large, and to me it looks like a bison. Bison did roam around and went over the ice bridge into the Americas some 40 to 50,000 years ago, so I read. If it was a mammoth, I would have thought it would have had a trunk, you see, and this doesn't have a trunk. So one would say, oh, it's shaped by the sea. Well, okay, yes, it was shaped by a man or some human and then lost to the sea and then washed up. So they've both had a go at it, really. That's the point. So hopefully they see the importance of that. nature doesn't normally reproduce things like that. And here's one of a different thing. This would have probably been fossil, would have been bone and then turned to stone by fossilization. So it could be a great age. But when you look at that in relation to that, it's the same. You know,
well, certainly very similar, isn't
yeah,
it?
well, I mean, the head, the two legs, and the way that the body slopes down. Here we've got another model that was made. Again, this was given to the powers to be. And I don't think they appreciated it too much. And here's another one which has a trunk on it.
That does look like a sculpted piece, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I found two of these. And here's another one here, more recent, which is actually fossilized bone. And then it's fossilized to stone. And here it has the trunk. And there's the trunk there, you see?
Yes, especially that. I can see that lower one.
And here's a fish, because you've got the eye there and the tail. So they made a fish. So, and here we've got a flying craft. It's always the little bit sort of cut off on the left-hand side. And here is a tool. Whether this is actually a fossil limb or what, I don't know. But it's definitely been a metal tool in there that's actually become fossilized. So for metal to be fossilized, it has to be multiple millions of years old. So, and this was established with iron crystals on an axe found in America, and the handle in it had already turned to fossilization, which was wood. So somebody was using a wooden-handled iron axe 400 million years ago. Beggars belief, yeah, and that's in a museum in America.
Taken from the Archaeologist Civilizations of the World article, February 25th, 2023. Discovered in Texas in 1936, the London hammer was embedded in a limy rock concretion originating from the Cretaceous rock formation 400 million years ago. The 6-inch long hammerhead consists of 96.6% iron and has not rusted since its discovery. The London hammer, sometimes also called the London artifact, is a name given to a hammer made of iron and wood that was found in London, Texas, in the United States in 1936. Many have claimed that the hammer is actually a 400 million years old artifact. The discovery of it was in June 1936 by Max Hahn and his wife Emma, who were on a walk when they noticed a rock with wood protruding from its core. They decided to take the oddity home and later cracked it open with a hammer and a chisel. Ironically, what they found within seems to be an archaic hammer of sorts. A team of archaeologists checked it, and as it turns out, the rock encasing the hammer was dated back more than 400 million years. The hammer itself turned out to be more than 500 million years old. Additionally, a section of the handle has begun the transformation to coal.
So the question is, we've got all these here. Now, here's something that I've sort of gathered over time, a little sort of Noah's Ark. Here you've got, it's even got its twirly little tail on the back there, and the legs, two legs here and one there. The Inuit in Canada also make things like this. So here we've got, again, that bison creature. Here we've got a frog, little eyes there, legs. We've got two fish here. We've got a mammoth here, because you've got the trunk coming round. You've got the lizard creature here, and you've got a giant bull seal here. So there we are, look. So its legs there and the head there, so it sits perfectly. Here it looks as if it's a giant tortoise here with the shell, the legs and the head. There's a leg there. Don't forget they've been worn because they've been pushed about. Here we've got a bear type creature, 4 legs there with a head. Here we've got a whale. They've got a twin tail at the back and the bulbous body. And here, and I know that they found this in the UK, in the odd, you've got the eyes both sides and you've got the beak. It's a bird's thing like you would have on a duck. And you would hold it like that. They were making a model of a bird, and that's its beak.
Well, you could certainly read that.
Into that. Well,
Yeah.
I've actually seen one on an archaeological program over here. But whoever was doing this was also doing it over here as well. So they were moving about, you know. That's why I look for these little things, and people say, oh, it's shaped by the sea, but I don't think it is. After, perhaps.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
and there's definitely
Oh,
some of
hang
those
on.
that look very, very sculptured.
This year, I found this, the dolphin.
Yeah, you could say that
The
does.
dolphin, because I've seen models made of dolphins, and that's exactly how they are. Just it's got a little bit chipped off there, the fin. And that's a dolphin, and dolphins are still around. The pods still float within half a mile of where this was found. Here's two seals. Now you get models of these, one standing up, and the other one having a sniff at each other. You know.
Well, that is interesting.
Yeah, and this is art, really, as far as I'm concerned. And we still don't really know what this is. But if I was to look at this and remember E.T., I would have said, well, there's his two legs, there's an arm, there's the head. To me, it looks like what the film industry was trying to determine as E.T. Well, they know a lot about this as well, I can tell you. Here's a little chap sitting down, and the head's pointing that way with the eye and the nose and the legs and the two arms here. Just sitting.
Almost looks a bit like a merman.
It's definitely looking in that direction, or it's looking in that direction. Something similar, spaceman, because he's got a hand up here, and there's a helmet, and it looks like a visor round there with two slots with the nose in the middle.
Okay, I'm having a difficulty seeing that one, but
Well, yeah, but
all these things are fascinating.
yeah, but the thing is, they're all made of a similar material. They're all of the same period, you know. This one here really surprises me because you can stick a penknife down the back there because that was put on after. Wings were put on after. And here you've got the wings folded round here and the head looking again to the right.
So it looks like possibly an angel.
An angel, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
We like that, don't we?
Yeah, we do, yes. So somebody made... But then, of course, if we're going back to where the mythology of the angels came from, probably flying, humanic-type creatures were flying around, you know. It's a fish. Look, this is the tail.
It does look very
and this one here, again, the twin tail, it's a small fish.
Also douse these, and they are...
Well, they actually put the blood of the animal in them when they make the mix. It's something they've made that then becomes stonified, and then the sea erodes it a bit and rounds it off. So I should find fish blood in that, you see, and frog blood of frogs in that. Well, there were certain Arctic animals that came over, long-haired ox, weren't they, or something like that, slightly different from a bison. But reading up about bisons, they were in Europe and they were in the area of the northern Adriatic and things, and then they actually went over the land bridge in the Ice Age over to America and Canada. So they died out here and then they landed up there.
Lovely. Well, thanks for that, Peter.
yeah,
I think it's time to get our cup of tea now, don't you?
Yeah, I'll do this because I've got my rods down there and I've got the pictures.
Another of the finds that Peter's been telling me about is this very, very interesting item here.
A rather copperish area of sand in the cliffside sticking out, and so I just got my little penknife and twiddled about, and this is what popped out. So I looked at this and I thought, well, that's a bit of spinal cord. All the rest is sort of rotted. Rescued it, washed it, and then I sort of coded it. It's enormous. It's about double the size of a spinal cord for humanity, really. So we'd all know about the giants, because there's your bit of the spine thing there, and there's your bits coming out from there. So, and that's the top. So it's obviously part of the back of the creature there. So it's fossil, basically. The thing is, I wanted to identify what this was. I'd already got these codes, and I suddenly found it was type 4. So, which is silver, blue, grey, green and orange, but red if it's alive. And so it wasn't obviously alive, so I thought, I'll have a go at that and see what I can find. Now, I had these codes for years back, so I go over maps, and it actually responds to Cassiopeia. There we are, perfect response over that. So this code here will not go against the type 3 limb, at all. It will only come against the actual code of the value of what's in that.
So when you say that this spinal cord
Yeah.
piece belongs to a being,
Well, I call it an alien giant.
right, from Cassiopeia.
Yeah, and people have told me that the Earth has been visited by many different types, and quite often they were all here together. Obviously, Earth had been visited a long, long time ago, millions of years ago, and onwards over the time. And according to Geoffrey Crockford, they all disappeared about 6,000 years ago and left a few little bits and pieces for the locals to use, but nothing too technological.
That relates to the Ice Age.
Yeah.
And Geoffrey Crockford was also saying that in his findings, and sadly he's no longer with us, but of the biolocation team, that they'd done extensive work on this sort of thing. And they said that when they located craft, they didn't find just one species on board, they found several. They were working together. So
rumour has it that we're part of a federation.
yes, that's what he said.
And technology is being passed down to us to build us up to their standards, which I can't see us ever being, because they're millions of years in advance of us anyway. So we'll always be at a disadvantage, but we'll be more help to them with some of the knowledge that they've got. And what I'd like to say is this: we all use computer keyboards, but you'll notice F numbers along the top. When you add them up, it's 42. Right, there's code 42. Get all the codes from by knowledge, mind-to-mind telepathy, right?
So 42 is the gateway.
Is the gateway, yeah. So then you look at the next row down, that you've got 0 to 9. Well, add that up, it's 45. That adds up to the value of the Orion code. And at the end of that thing, you've got a little image that looks like that. True. And that's exactly what it is. Instead of having to spell out the word dowsing, you just put either that for 1 for pointing, or 2 of them. What is the link between Orion and 42? Well, if you go to Egypt and the Great Pyramids, they're at 45 degrees to the Orion symbol. And 42s are buried, like we've got in our area here in Kent, all along the causeway to the Sphinx. Because they left their remains as pointers, because you were supposed to do this. So one day I was actually sending some codes to somebody, and I wanted to put 9, 10, 11 and 12, but instead I accidentally touched the F numbers instead of the next row down, and it took me right out of the Gmail I was on and into Windows 13 research. Now that tells you something. They're already researching Windows 13, and yet we haven't really got Windows 11 yet. But the F, I believe, stands for Federation, although they may have another thing for it.
Okay,
now,
well, we can read into these things. Okay, so let's get back to our spine.
Right, we've got this code here, type L4. Silver, blue, grey, green and orange.
Because that looks purple to me on that.
It's got,
so it should be a
it's got 3 on it, yeah. Because you can get royal blue and you get pale blue. Pale blue represents time, and that's why...
So that should be a royal blue,
it should be royal blue, yes. It's slightly darkened up a bit.
And those 2 grey areas look the same.
Yeah, well, that's silver and that's grey, yeah. So when I go over this here, I get perfect response. I mean, it's very, very strong response.
L4.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just use this here. This is a human burial code. About pink, white, black and yellow. If I go over this here like that, there's no response whatsoever. I'll do the female code here. Pink, white, silver, black and yellow. No, nothing. Nothing whatsoever. But if I go over this, wants to cross. It's the type L4.
Oh, that's the L4.
Yeah. So now here's something else. Now, is this going to respond? This is a bone detector, black and yellow, right? Yeah. So it's showing that it's a form of bone, which is black and yellow. If you hold sheep's bone, you'll get this code will go against a lamb bone or beef bone. But you do need this on humans when you've got a burial.
So that just that black and yellow will go against any kind of bone, human, animal, or anybody.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, and Geoffrey said that aliens have got different type of mixture in their calcium bone to toughen it up, because otherwise it wouldn't take the stresses, shocking G-forces that are involved in space travel. So,
well, if they are.
Yeah. Now this is very interesting, because my diver friend gave me this to research actually. He said a leading paleontologist had expressed his view on this, that this is part of a vertebrae from the very top part of the neck. But he does not recognise any animal or human that has this system of vertebrae. And it's found in the area that I find my bits. The divers actually, they know of a site where you've got human remains turned to stone. And the paleontologist said in that part of the world, for that to happen, it takes at least 60 million years.
And the paleontologists actually said this is not like a piece of vertebrae they know or have ever seen, but they think it's from the
neck, very
top of the neck. So Peter's actually going to test to see whether it is a human or something else.
Yeah, right. It's alien again. It's type L3.
L3.
Yeah, the little miners, as we call them.
The little miners. So we're talking about like the Cusco guy.
That's right. Yes, 3'6" to 4 foot maximum, probably.
So we're going to have a look now at the mummy from Cusco, which Peter got a very interesting reading from, which we'll talk about shortly. But Peter, just talk again about photographs and the energy they collect.
Photographs contain images of people, animals and other things, contain their DNA encapsulated in their response into colour barcodes, which you can categorise. So if you have a mummy, then you should get a response. It just so happens the area that I've been looking at over many years had a mining community of these strange creatures that already had a code for. So directly the Cusco photographs came up, I went through my collection of alien codes, because it certainly wasn't human, and found it was type L3 that responded, for which I already had a code and had actually remote viewed the tunnels and the caves that they were mining in.
Can you tell us what L3 means?
Well, L3 is grey, green, silver and blue. 2, 6, 12, 3.
Can you tell us where L3 comes from? And
well, I tracked it. If you look over the star charts, I could dig that information out, because there's so many of them. But
when you say L3, you're
life form 3. They've come here to mine.
So where do you think this was mining then?
It was mining iridium and vanadium and various other metals that were connected to the space industry that we know. So basically I found this time on my visit a fossilized limb for this type of creature.
Right.
So I took it to the department concerned and gave them that and demonstrated exactly, this is a foot, a toe. So you can see the size of it. It's not very big, is it, at all? There's your toe, and there's a sort of a bit of a nail there. So it's like 1, 2, 3, there's about 4 little toes, which is what these things have got, and 4 little digits on their fingers. So the thing is that they've got that one, and I demonstrated how this would actually go over that. So
the L3 life form and code resonates to this now famous image.
There we are. A very enormously strong response. So the colour goes against this goes against that, and the colour goes against that, so they all correspond to each other.
Right, let's just see that one more time, Peter.
Right. So I'm holding the little foot, fossilised little foot. Yeah.
So the fossilised foot and this image resonate. Fellow dowser and remote viewer Alan Hady also got a positive response on not only the foot, but also the mummy. And we see a little orb making an appearance.
And we'll change the image now, because there were several images on the web. Here's one showing the full body there. It was only about 3 foot tall, you see, tiny little thing. So if I was to go over with that, it still responds, you see, because the value of this is captured in the photograph there. And the photograph image is valued in colour barcode. So this is why we do Claudia Lawrence, and this is why we do Nicola Bulley, this is why we do Madeleine McCann. You've got one image, no matter what state you change yourself into, it's just that humans are slightly different from these. These have the same image whether they're alive or dead, but with us, we change our code when we're dead because we have to put black and yellow on it.
Oh, right. So it doesn't make any difference to these guys. Oh,
No,
that's
so you can be fossil, you can be alive, and you've just got one code. So to my way of thinking, it's a sort of an AI creation that other types have made to look like their image, but will not get affected by radiation or anything else like that, because we do. That's the problem. And this really needs to be known. If you get cremated, as a male has pink, white, and a female is pink, white, and silver. So the difference between male and female is the silver. But when you're cremated, the white goes for both sexes, but becomes grey. So what does the white represent? Well, the white represents the internals of a church. It's spiritual, it's holy water, it's everything else. So basically you're burning your spirit out and turning yourself into a cremated pile of ash. But it's just a fact that I've seen that cremations are not picked up on pink, white and silver, black and yellow, or pink, white, black and yellow for male. They're only picked up on one code for either pink, grey, black and yellow.
Well, that is fascinating. And as to burning the spirit out, I don't know about that because they say, is it up to 7 days that the soul hangs around or 3 days? I can't remember now.
I really don't know. Well, I just discover these things as you go along, you know. When we did some work in Poplar many years ago, I was invited by a dowsing group to take part in a dowsing on site in Poplar playing fields. And being a remote viewer, I prefer to work in my office and go over the map. So I went out and I got an AA book to get the map of Poplar. I then blew it up to A3 size and saw Poplar playing fields. So I went over it for burials and I found loads of rows of burials, some with in graves, male and female, some in coffins, some without coffins, some in wood, some in lead. And I logged that all on the map. And then I went round and found a stone, well, a wood henge basically. And then I found masses of graves all in pits. One on the left-hand side of the Poplar playing field and one on the, let's say, the top of my viewed map. And I also found cremations around the henge. So I logged this all on the map, kept a copy myself, sealed it in an envelope, gave it to Alan Hayday, who was going up to London to be part of the group. And I believe there was a university involved in this. And they were filming this and they wanted to find out what dowsers came back with the information to see how it collaborated. So I sealed it in a brown envelope and I said, please do not open this until you've all finished your exercise to see how my viewing from here matches your on-site viewing. Well, I'd actually found the plague pits, which were on other maps, but not on my map. And they were the plague pits, which were on ancient maps. So I picked up all the plague victims because I have a plague code for plague. So we coded a virus. Nothing is unable to be coded. This is the point. And I'd actually picked up the wood henge, and it was the East India Church graveyard that I picked up at the bottom.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, so that's, fact. But actually, tongue in cheek, I actually put in a little remote viewed map of Mars with the graves on it, male and female, because they're up there, the same codes as we got down here, but there are other types up there as well, and put that in the back. And I said, well, if you can do this from here to Poplar and you get your facts right in comparison to what ancient maps say and what is other people are looking at, how is it that I'm getting this on Mars? And I find that other people have done research on Mars, although they found all sorts of things on very clear maps provided by, or film and satellite images by NASA and their rovers images, which they've cut out to the masses. You won't get it on Google Earth Mars. And there was even something representing a sphinx.
Sorry, Peter, just going back to the Poplar event. I take it when they opened your envelope,
must have
they found a correlation.
A correlation, yes. Alan said, yes, it was the East India churchyard, it was the plague pits I picked up, and there was a wood henge in the middle of the playing fields.
So what you picked up remotely, they also found?
They picked up as well, yes. So there was a whole team of people, and we don't know at the end of the day who did this work, where that information went. Now, we've just had a little event, which I will tell you about. There was an awful lot of humming noises around the city of Armagh in Northern Ireland. So I drew up a Google Earth map of Amar at 3 kilometres, and I went over it with my UFO general code, and I picked up 5 responses around the city of Amar. People were saying they were hearing a humming noise and it was driving them mad. It was keeping them awake at night. They tried to find out the source of it and could not find out the source of it at all. I sent them my findings. I said, you've got traffic very, very high up that's doing something and creating a humming noise. I said, I think you'll find it might go at 1800 hours on the 18th. On the 18th of November, we are the last in line for basically things to disappear.
You mean craft moving
yeah, so
on
the 18th, during the day of the 18th, I noticed that they were no longer around because I'd actually contacted them a couple of days before that. And so they were there before the 18th. And they were no longer responding around the city of Amar, but had sort of started across the Irish Sea and across Yorkshire and north of England, that area, out to the North Sea. And then they would drift down like they always have done before. So were they drawing electricity by being up there and drawing electricity from down below, or doing something, or gathering water vapour? Who knows? But the thing is, it'd be interesting to know whether their hum has gone, because we're the 19th today, so yesterday at 1800 hours they should have gone. However, you have to ask yourself what this hum is, because it's been found in Canada, it's been found in North Yorkshire, it's been found other places around the world, and it sort of comes and it sort of goes, but it drives people mad. What I'm saying is, it could be UFO activity, 5 crafts that you can pick up 3 times a year, and they always leave on the 18th at 1800 hours. So it's the 18th of March, 18th of August, 18th of November. Yesterday was the 18th of November. Did it stop? If it did, we've got the evidence that they're the ones who create the hum. So you can imagine we would probably be talking about 30 kilometres above the city of Amar I was looking at. So in scale terms, the mind scales down. If there were no responses below that, it didn't respond at 3 kilometres, you see, that's what I'm getting at over the map. But as I drew out, the responses became noticeable all around.
And that's very relevant,
It is,
because you wouldn't find it then at other levels.
No, that's
you
right.
You have to be able to scan.
Because that's what they are. You might find the energy they're drawing up to create the hum, but not the craft itself.
Very interesting.
So you have to be above the craft in order to pick them up below your rods or your sensory equipment. And that's the message I was trying to get over to.
Thank you. We'll continue anon.
Right. So if we're talking about humans having lived 60 million years ago and died and lived, and ocean levels have risen and the graves have been eroded, then we can look at other efforts like Mars, for instance, that Mars was once inhabited by humans and they came to Earth, or we were running parallel together anyway. So the question is that there could easily be life, fossilized life on Mars, because if we've got 60 million year old burials turned to stone down here, and he said there's masses of them, there's not just 1 or 2, an event's taken place and they've all died and they turned to stone, and there's all sort of utensils with them as well. Now that was his finding, not mine. And
so this is a diver in the lower Adriatic area.
Yeah.
And at what depth are we?
Oh, just skin diving depth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you see, the sea levels have risen by about 400 feet. If you go down further to the Mediterranean's dried up at least twice in known history into lakes. And from Sicily onwards, because they got great salt mines off the coast of Sicily, so therefore that ocean has been going a lot longer. So, but if you were to take Ephesus, for instance, in Turkey, Ephesus is now about 10 kilometres from the coast, but it had a port there. So the sea has shrunk 10 kilometres basically away from...
Well, it's like the pyramids, isn't it? It was said that they were on the...
So land has moved, it's gone up, it's gone down, sea levels have risen and gone down, and you see, because...
So can we just say again what your diver friend found exactly? So he found many...
Oh yes, he reported many signs of human remains, some of them actually attached to utensils as if it's like a Pompeii type of thing. But the mere fact they turned to stone, he said, for human bone to turn to stone, it just can't do it the time slots that we all think in that part of the world, because the different parts of the world have different chemicals and things like that. The paleontologist told him anyway. So
are we talking about sort of tens of people or remains that they could tell, like skulls?
Dozens of them. Yeah, from what the impression I had. Yeah, I saw some kids playing with bits and pieces, and when they'd finished playing with them, they looked like horns off an animal or something like that. So I just rescued some of them. I took them up, and they said they're at least 20 million years old. So that's a starting point, isn't it?
Very
and then when you
interesting.
look at fossilized metal, it takes even greater length of time to do that. Then 60 million years isn't a thing. Look, we don't really know what happened 11,000 years ago. I mean, archaeologists are scrambling around on the ground. They don't really know beyond... in India, they've been looking at archaeology, and they have found archaeology at around about 60 to 80,000 years ago, because they've done carbon dating of material around the deposits. But of course, deposits, channels are dug, deposits drop down. So it's not 100% science. But if you know how things fossilise and how long it takes to fossilise in certain conditions, if we don't really know what happened beyond 11,000 years, what on earth's happened on Earth over 30, 40, 50, 60 million years? We've got something else that's of interest. I was talking about fossilisation into stone of bone. So here we have a foot.
Okay, so are we looking at toes?
Toes, yeah, toes. And if you look underneath, you have an arch under you.
Like an arch, yeah. Okay, you think that's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's got cut off there, it's just broken up, because if things have been buried, they break up when the sea breaks them up or whatever, and archaeologists dig a skeleton, all the sinews break up and everything and biodegrade, so you're just left with the bones, so they all fall to bits. Nothing to hold them together, So if I go over this now with the general bone code.
So black and yellow.
Yeah, that responds.
Okay,
right,
we've got a very strong response.
Yeah, now I'll go for male or female human. Nope. That's male. That's female. So it's not human, whatever it is. So let's have a little go at L3 again. Oh, yeah, see? It's not L3. So let's hold this. See whether it goes against that.
And what is that?
Well,
this? Or the thumb?
Yeah. I've got a lovely response on that.
Okay,
So
it's
it goes against the same as that one. Yes, the thumb. Go. These
Yeah.
are toes, that's the thumb. Yeah. So it went against the thumb that we were looking at. That was
Okay.
non-human. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to look at codes here. There was just one other one I wanted to have a go at. This one here. I've got absolutely hundreds of codes.
And what code are we looking at here?
Well, this is type 41. Yeah, there we are. Siren code, we call it.
The siren
The
code.
siren
And do we
code, yeah.
know where they hail from?
Not here, that's...
Not here.
Yeah, so that's the code there, and it adds up to 41. So you've got green, silver, grey, blue, red, orange and yellow. I'd actually detected this on remote viewing on my chart before I went to the area, so I knew that there would be remains there, and it's different from 42, you see. Nothing. So
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so 42 we got in the Grove, 42s we got along the Great Pyramids to the Sphinx, and a circle within a circle, a square, or it could be a cross, we don't quite know what it looks like, and a plus and a minus. 42 loves giving you their burials in arrow-shaped formations when they want to show you something, because that's the only way that they were able to communicate. Just imagine if you couldn't write anything down. There was no need to write anything down. So eventually you have computers which you just touch or you control with your mind. You just send messages to people by telepathically through the computers, and I think that's what, beyond Windows 13 might land up being. So we'll not be sending letters at all. We won't be sending emails at all. We'll just put our hand on the screen and think what we want to say to the address it's going. Everything I get is from mind-to-mind telepathy. They give me the codes, I write the colours down, and then I put them into the numbers. And then they work over what I want them to work on. every single one of us walking around has a code just for us.
A unique identifier.
A unique code, yes, like our DNA. But also your illnesses are coded, your state is coded, whether you're alive or dead, but also your membership is coded.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that if, for instance, you belong to something you shouldn't belong to, you're codable.
Oh.
Quite.
Ooh. On that teaser note, we
Yes.
shall probably go and have lunch.
Yes. One of the things I found was a little bit of rib bone, and the thing is I'm just going to test that it is bone to start off with, so I'll just go across here. Right, so it doesn't matter what sort of bone it is, it's bone on black and yellow, you see. It's possible to code a bone for volcanic casting and different death through different stages. I'm going to test for male, see if this is a male.
Oh, okay.
It does respond to male. Now let's test female human. So it's a bit of human bone, and it doesn't want to go against female. Now what I'm getting at is the aliens were farming humans because basically they were easier to control. And you'll have to read his research work on that. But I was quite amazed at that. He said, oh yes, they were just in a long line and just led into a side of a UFO, and as they went in, their heads were sliced off and they were prepared for food, blood and meat.
Wow. Okay.
Try doing that with a cow. So humans were far easier to control and also breed in captivity as well. But of course, that's his research. But he thought this was bone, but I felt this was cable. Now, how do you get fossilized cable? Well, as Jeff said, they found cold fusion plants and they took them away, but they actually had the technology for cold fusion. If only we could get that technology back. And here is a piece of cable that represents great age, fossilized, so it's got to be millions of years old, and it had a slightly rougher, crumbling outer layer.
And what made you think that it was, in fact,
it
something
was,
of technology?
Because basically it was clean cut at each end, so it'd been prepared, which is what you sometimes do with cable. If you've got a burnt out cable, you cut a bit out and put a new bit in. And it caught my eye. It was just glinting in the wash, so I sort of have a go at that. And then I thought, well, is it bone or not? So no response whatsoever. So it's not bone at all.
Not bone.
So then I have a code for cold fusion, and it responded to that. And radiation, it responds to that. Plutonium, it responds to that.
Oh, really?
So therefore, it had been used in carrying nuclear power. So basically, that's a piece of cold fusion cable. So they had cold fusion. This supports Jeffrey's work, and they were trying to get these details from their hologram telescope to pass on, and Nigel did actually give a rough sketch of a cold fusion plant, which I passed on to various people out of sheer interest. He would have done the same presumably, but the thing is, at least we've got something that came from that technology.
Well, that's very unique, because you've never picked up anything like that before.
Famous scientist from the English university system wrote a book that everything can be put into numbers, absolutely everything. So what we're doing is a system that can break things down into number values based on colour.
But
so,
it's all sort of frequency led, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah. But nobody can say that that's a piece of rib, because when you look at this, it's even got a bit of tissue attached to it. A rib is slightly flatter. This is perfectly round. So I'm going to show you something now. Three items here. There's a finger. If I put that on there, that is perfect for my finger, right? And there's the nail. There's the nail. Okay.
Yeah, that does look like a nail.
Yeah, and quite often you see these washed up. And here is a thumb, but it's not human. That's human. And quite often humans turn black when they're dead. These have got chlorophyll blood in them. It's an alien thumb. And that is why they sort of fossilized green, because of the chlorophyll content. So here we've got a human, and here we've got an alien. You can see there's difference in size. Did they cut bits off and put them in the burials? Because there are customs in the part of the world where they're found where people have an ailment and they go into a church and they put a little picture of the ailment in there. Is either a thank you for a cure, or as they do with saints and things like that, they have bits of the body and they put them in a tomb thing that people can worship and go in, you know, that sort of thing. So has that sort of arrived from something like this? So the alien was worshipped, so therefore they kept part of the alien, and it's fossilized. And the same with the human.
So all these codes
Yeah.
are just a sampling of the many that
Yeah,
Peter
yeah,
has created over many years. They all represent a unique identifier of some quality, type,
Yeah,
element.
Just put that with Nicola Bulley in the middle.
No, Nicola Bulley, there she is in the middle.
And here's human blood code 971.
Is that red, white and pink, or red,
It's
white,
red, white, and purple.
Oh, it's a
Purple one, yeah.
red, white and purple. Okay.
And all these codes go against the ancient temples. All high priests knew about these codes because they were the ones doing the communications. So you had 16 colours, 16 symbols, and numbers 1 to 16. So whereas all the colours are uniform around Earth to all of us, the alphabets aren't, because they had different symbols to each of the numbers. So that's why we'll end up with Chinese being writing that, and Russian being like that, and then gradually the alphabets expanded for better sound and communication. But originally ochre, for instance, was number 16, ochre, and that's why people had their bones painted in ochre for death and decay, you see. So 1 was purple, 2 was grey, 3 was blue, that's royal blue, and that's why you pick up water on blue. 4 was orange for radiation. 5 was yellow for gas on its own. That's why gas pipes are yellow. 6 is green. 7 is white for spirituality and creation and everything, and holy water. 8 is brown. 9 is red. That's electricity and energy. And then 10 is black, of course, because gold is 11. 12 is silver. And then you go into pink for humanity. And then you've got bronze.
That's 13, isn't it?
13, yeah. And then you've got bronze, 14, for creation. That's why the first great emperor of China invented the first bronze coinage, and there were 14 moulds in each pan. And he used to go up on the mound and pray to the gods. I pointed that out to them in the terracotta exhibition in the British Museum. I won't say what the lady archaeologist wrote back to me, but you've got bronze, 14, you've got time, which is 15, that's why church clocks and cathedral clocks are usually painted pale blue, and then 16 is ochre for death and decay. After that, you've got nuclear things like nuclear radiation, 17, and then you've got 18 and 19. 19 is the atom. And you can put these codes together. So you could have, for instance, an alien code, and you could have a bone code with it, black and yellow, and they would both, let's say, respond because it's got bone in it, but it's not human. And then you could put the human code next to it, and it would kill the whole lot stone dead. And until you remove the human code, you will not get that response back. So in other words, the mind has also got a self-correcting system that if that combination of codes is not in that subject, then it won't respond. So it's your double check, basically, you see. You can actually measure volcanic activity because there's a code for volcanic activity. It's like earth energy, and you do a count from 10 to 1, and as you go down, the area of the world map you're going over will respond to a certain level. And then you can say whether it's a danger or not, whether the pressures are picking up. Then you can then go along, because you'll find it might be high, and then it will start to go low, but then that pressure goes further up the fault line, so you can actually monitor the pressure moving on the plates. So there are people who can do this. This is the Earth Energies group, I believe, just like they have a water divining group, you know. But the military always took their diviners with them on a campaign in the past. They never went on a campaign without their diviners. And in Chatham Royal Engineers Library, they had a huge library on books on divining. So
Wonderful. Wow.
public don't know this, you see, that's the point. So they think, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, why would the military do it? Then they rely on equipment, you see, but the problem is the equipment is not as efficient on certain things. There's a limit to the depths it can go. If you're looking for oil, for instance, I could pick oil up at 10,000 feet. I don't think we've got a piece of electrical equipment that will go down 10,000 feet. That's the point. You've got to drill down for it. But of course, I can't prove what I'm saying because I haven't got a piece of equipment to prove what I'm saying. Divining over an area just draws that energy is in with that certain area, and you can fine tune it. So if you're doing maps, you're looking at, there's a great height over the map, so you're going down to the point of the ice cream cone. But the thing is, in order to fine tune that point, you need to increase the scale of the map up, so you come closer to the target.
We're going to be talking about missing people and some of Peter's detective work, hence the Dowsing Detective and Remote Viewer, and how he has been using that. Some of you have seen our work on Nicola Bulley and Claudia Lawrence and Madeleine McCann. But now we're going to talk about something completely different.
A gentleman from Trinidad who had been imprisoned for murder of a lady called McKay, who was mistaken for another lady at a farm in Hertfordshire. So I picked this press article up and I thought, the police had searched for a body and couldn't find anything, but he wanted to come over to show where the body was, but he's prevented from coming into the UK, so he would have to get that cleared before he could even come over and make an entry. It would be illegal otherwise. And the sister of the missing lady would like to know where the remains are. So I thought, well, we do archaeology, we look for the burials, male and female, that we've demonstrated today. So we got the map up of, it's called Rook's Nest Farm now, and I went over it and got a general outline of the farm and went over it, and I found one female response to a burial. So
Which part of the country is this in, Peter?
In Hertfordshire. So I then send the map over to my friend Joe, who lives in Essex, to see if he, as a remote viewer as well, what he could find. And he also found one single female grave. So what I then do is then enlarge up the scale of the map so that we're becoming nearer and nearer and nearer to the ground. So the yellow marker will then be more fine-tuned. And I just simply send it over to the authorities and say, well, have a look there. If you've got sniffer dogs or you've got some ground radar thing, you can go around and see if there's any disturbance. But the trouble is, you see, since 1969, there's been new buildings on that farm. Ground has been cleared. So where the person thought that he might have buried it, he probably wouldn't recognise it now anyway. So he would be at a complete loss. So the work we do can give you a clue as to where to start looking. That's the point.
Lovely, that's fascinating, Peter.
Yeah. So
Thanks for that.
We'll wait and see what happens, because we pass the information on, but we never really know where to send it.
More from the Dowsing Detective. Yeah. Very interesting. Well, thanks, Peter. That's wonderful. Yeah, fascinating as always from our Dowsing Detective.